Hi, I'm returning and reporting for this week. Look, I even put on pink lipstick for you. Mwah. Oh, and look, happy Valentine's! This past week has been very difficult emotionally for me. More difficult than I expected. Well, you don't really expect some of the stuff that happened. If I did, that'd be so sad for my life. Anyways, so I did keep up my food journal, and I did keep up reading from Positively Unstoppable, and I've gotten more involved in like the DDP community online, and that's been really, really awesome. I've really enjoyed those portions, but life is kind of a meanie, like such a bully sometimes, and you never get away from it being hard. There are reprieves, but eventually you're gonna get knocked around again. And so my normal reaction to any kind of discomfort, confrontation, anything, is to shrink away from it, to run away, to hide in the food I eat, the TV shows I watch. Anyways, my mom said something to me earlier this week about how she has observed me that when I shrink away, I get bigger. Like, she's meaning like, all this good stuff, And I found those words very true this week. The beginning of this week, my dad, who has ALS, which is a terminal illness, he will eventually die from it, thought he had cellulitis, which is pretty severe, and since he's on hospice, they would not have treated him. And thank goodness it wasn't cellulitis. We got confirmation from the ALS clinic that it wasn't. So grateful. But that emotional roller coaster in itself, like, I'll never be ready for him to pass away. I would like him not to suffer as much as ALS requires. Anyways, I'm gonna cry. So that happened, and that night I saw this YouTube video that was like, what is the worst thing you've ever heard? What is one thing you wish you hadn't heard? And it wasn't, the thing that popped to my mind wasn't, your dad has ALS, your dad is dying. It wasn't, your best friend died. It wasn't, your sister died. It was this really horrible thing my best friend said to me when we were young, when we were like 19, 20. He said it out of a place of his own turmoil and his own hell that he was going through. But those words just sprung to my mind, and they cut. It hurt a lot. And the fact that I didn't think first, oh, my dad's dying, hurt even worse, because I've spent so long numbing out the hard things in my life that I've numbed out the good things. And that's hard. And then the next day I found out one of my friends, we were friends, yeah, so, long time ago, is going to prison, second-degree felony. And that was really hard to hear, because you don't ever see that coming. Well, I didn't see it coming, and it was difficult for me to process. And then we went to the ALS clinic, and it's so good that we have that resource in our lives. That what they do basically is, it's one of like only 2 places in the Americas that has a clinic where all the specialists see you. You go in, sit in one room for 8 hours, and the neurologists, the social service people, the ALS specialists, the adaptive equipment people come through, and the pulmonology. So anyways, it's an amazing, amazing blessing. And I feel blessed when I get to go with my parents because I wouldn't miss it for the world. But it's hard to see my dad deteriorate. And what I wanted to talk about was I just feel emotionally battered, you know, or like pushed around. My normal is to be like blown about on the wind, you know, not really having any anchoring, like nothing to hold me down. And that's been by choice, you know, because it takes effort and it takes determination to be grounded. And it takes a loving yourself to take the time to ground yourself, to say you're worth it. And something that my dad, once again, my dad that I'm talking about is my stepfather, who he and I adopted each other when I was 18, has really taught me what love actually is. Unconditional love, love and friendships and family connections and camaraderie, and the sharing humor, like, you know, with your biological parents, like with my mom, I just expect her to love me, you know? It's that kind of like, well, you don't have a choice. You have to love me. Even when I'm being a snot. Which I'm grateful that you keep me around, Ma. But with Phil, when Phil, my dad, came into my life at 13, he really took the time to love me and to teach me that true friendship is one where even if you're having a rough time, they'll sit with you and tell you it's going to be okay. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, so his legacy is this legacy of love and doing what it takes to live a life of love and a life you love. Like, he never really made the excuses. I mean, I can't say never because we all struggle with our demons, you know, and he has his own demons, but he's been willing to put in the work because he knows what it is to be loved by God. And anyways, and he gave that to me, and that's the legacy that I want to continue. In my readings with the DDP's Positively Unstoppable, I read this whole section, like one of his big things he says is that life is 10%, sorry, let me say this right. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% of what, no. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And I really feel like my dad embodies that. I want to live like that. And one of the other things that DDP mentions is that the word decide, the Greek word that it came from actually means to cut off other possibilities. And he brings it in line with how the Vikings, some groups of Vikings, when they would sail across the sea and come into a new land, they would burn their boats as symbolism that they weren't ever going back. They were there to conquer. And this idea to decide not to go back to my patterns of self-abuse, of self-hatred, and I need to get really clear about what those things are, because I want to cut those things out of my life and add in the good things. And this whole journey with the DDP yoga has really been anchoring my rolling tumble soul a little bit. Like, it's putting in some seriously good rituals or habits. I like to use the word ritual because it means more, it has more weight to it. It's something that I need to do. Yeah. So the challenge that DDP has given us for the week is to listen to his book called Own Your Life, which I'll do. I'll play it on my way to work every day and just add it into my routine. And I'm excited to listen to it. He's got some seriously good ideas. Like, let me see if I can say it correctly. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. Yes, I did it. Anyways, yeah, that's my return and report. I'm in it for the long haul. I want to live the legacy my dad, my Phil, has given to me. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye.